Hi, and welcome to an in-depth look at the 1967 movie Bonnie and Clyde. The film starred Warren Beatty, Faye Dunaway, Gene Hackman and other stars. The budget for the film was an estimated $2.5 million. The film performed well at the box office, and by year's end, it had grossed $23 million in the US. Warner Brothers gave the movie a limited B-movie type release at first, sending it to drive-ins and lesser theatres. When critics began raving about the film and young people began to show up at screenings, it was better promoted, given a wider release, and became a huge hit. A screening for Jack L. Warner, the president of Warner Brothers Studios, went very badly for Warren Beatty and Arthur Penn. Warner got up 3 times to go to the toilet. Warner apparently went to his grave hating the film. The film is not all accurate to the real-life exploits of Bonnie and Clyde, but the film has gone on to cult status and is now classed as a 1960s classic. The film was mostly shot in the state of Texas. So let's now take a look at the film locations and what they look like today. So we start off in the movie at Bonnie Parker's house. This is where both characters meet for the first time in the movie. Faye Dunaway would have been standing talking to Warren Beatty at the top window. The house hasn't really changed much. Its double garages on the right hand side are the only things that's changed. Here they are going to buy a cola. The stretch of shops are still there. When scouting for locations, production designer Dean Tavaroles was delighted to see that a lot of the smaller Texas towns hadn't changed much from the 1930s. And as you can see, they still haven't changed. This is where Clyde Barrow does his first robbery. The shop front has now been bricked up and it has now become a church, but you can see the top of the building still looks the same, and you can see the shop where it says nails and hair is still there. Here we have both characters dining out in the cafe. This is where Clyde decides to go off in a different car from the one they arrived in. The real-life Clyde Barrow started off stealing chickens and then stealing cars before going on to more serious crimes. It's really nice to see that this place still exists. The shop front and pole were painted green when it was shot in the movie. The house where they sleep overnight was a private farm east of Rolette, Texas. Clyde decides to rob his first bank with Bonnie, only to find the bank is empty with no money at all. You can see from this scene Clyde tries not to show he's really nervous in front of Bonnie. Bonnie finds it hilarious. I really love the architecture of these old buildings. Clyde decides to rob the grocer at gunpoint for some food. The scene starts out as a bit comedic, as Clyde keeps asking if he's sure he hasn't got any cherry pie. Then it turns ugly when the shop assistant comes from behind, wielding a meat cleaver. I think that this is a real clever scene and shows the seriousness of what they were doing. Again, the shop hasn't changed really. Notice that the wooden building, which was a cafe, is no longer there. In this scene we have Bonnie and Clyde meeting C.W. Moss for the first time. Here is the gas station. Wonder how many people realise it's from the movie. It's now a tyre shop. The area is now more built up, and the road opposite where you see them drive away is not as straight as it was in 1967. Clyde and Bonnie robbing a bank. This time C.W. Moss, Michael J. Pollard is the getaway driver. Again, another comedy moment when CW decides to park up the getaway car and Bonnie and Clyde can't see where he's parked. It also turns serious when Clyde shoots the bank person holding on to the car. This is where CW would have parked up the vehicle against this wall. As with most film sets, they alter the buildings. The white building where CW parks up against had an awning fitted and the clock was removed for the movie. This is Buck's house, and where in the film they get discovered and end up having a shootout with the police. Unfortunately, the house was knocked down just a few years ago, so it doesn't exist now. Flats have now been built in place. So the whole area has really changed from what it looked like in the movie. This is where we have Texas Ranger Frank Hamer trying to apprehend the gang. The movie portrays Texas Ranger Frank Hamer as a bungler who was humiliated by Bonnie and Clyde and Buck, being forced to pose for pictures and then being set adrift in a rowboat. In reality, Hamer, an already legendary Texas Ranger, came out of semi-retirement at the request of the Texas governor following the notorious Eastern Prison Raid in 1934. He was tasked with hunting down and killing Bonnie and Clyde. He had never met the pair until the fateful ambush. His family were very upset by the betrayal and successfully sued Warner Brothers for an undisclosed sum. The scene was shot at the footbridge that separates Little Lemon Lake and Lemon Lake. The Barrow gang decide to rob the Farmers Merchant Bank. During the robbery, Buck Barrow, Gene Hackman, does a leap over the teller's cage. This was a stunt routinely pulled by John Dillinger, who in turn learned it from watching Douglas Fairbanks in the Zorro movies. In this scene we see Gene Wilder make his first big screen debut. The house still exists, and this is where Gene Wilder and the actress Evan Evans would have been sat while Clyde Barrow steals his car. The Deckerville shootout scenes were filmed at the Pajopa Preserve, Dallas, Texas. Gene Hackman regretted his decision to film Buck's death scene in his vest. The scene was shot several times out of sequence, and when they came to complete it, winter had set in, and Hackman had to play it in his vest in nearly freezing conditions. On the day the company shot the scene in which Bonnie and Clyde wade through the river after their shot, a cold front hit Texas. It took 3 days to film the scene as the 3 actors fought not to shiver while the cameras were rolling. Now we come to the penultimate part of the movie where Bonnie and Clyde go into town for the last time with C.W. Moss. The area has slightly changed, but the row of shops is still there. The film's spectacular graphic ambush was one of the few scenes not filmed in Texas. It was actually filmed at Warner Brothers Russell Ranch, now developed as Westlake Village in Triunfo near Thousand Oaks, northwest of Los Angeles. The lake at Westlake is the location of the homestead of the Russell Ranch, and where the main ranch buildings were located. So some sets were outside this immediate area, but no sets remain from the filming days. If you look closely at Warren Beatty's left leg, you can actually see a wire coming out of his trousers, which would have been for the squibs to detonate when being shot up. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and why not consider subscribing to the channel? I've got more videos coming soon. And give me a thumbs up as it helps to promote the videos. Also check out the home cinema shop, it's got some great items. I'll now leave you with the stills gallery. Stay safe and enjoy your movies. Bye.